Hey, what's up, Crypto Army? I'm Travis, your crypto newbie. Bringing you my experiences. You have to learn things the hard way. Just a reminder, I'm not a financial advisor, and none of my content should be viewed as financial advice. Don't forget, if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on notifications. There's actually proven research out there that says if I say that on every single video, that it'll help people remember to do that if they like the content. So don't forget to do that. Now, let's jump into today's content. And we're going to talk about stablecoin. Now, I've talked about stablecoins on my channel quite a bit, since by and large, people prefer projects that reward in stablecoin over reflections in their own token. I did a survey a few months ago, and that was the most common response is they would prefer stablecoins, and I'm right there with you. I really like getting stablecoins. So I look for projects that reward in stablecoins because I think they're a great project that offers a little bit of stability when the market goes crazy. And as you can tell by recent events, the market has been kind of crazy. So those stable coins have been kind of nice because they haven't decreased in price. Well, most of them anyway. Let's jump right into the content for today. So as you can see here, U.S. Treasury Secretary reaffirms need for stablecoin regulation following UST crash. Now, if you're not familiar with UST, it's Terra's stablecoin. It's pegged to the dollar. Let's see what's going on with it. Now, as you can see here, 68 cents. Well, how's that possible if it's supposed to be pegged to the dollar? And if you look at it, you can see by and large, it's pegged to the dollar. Every single stablecoin has a little bit of fluctuation, but that's a pretty significant fluctuation. It's down to 68 cents. Now, what's kind of crazy here is in theory, it's a stable coin. It's supposed to be pegged to the dollar. If you were to buy right now when it's 68 cents, it should jump back up to, wouldn't you guess, $1. So there's a lot of people that are actually buying, but with the uncertainty of what's going on here, and basically it was just a run on Terra UST that caused the market conditions that we're seeing right now. But this happening got the attention of the federal government. Because again, it's a stable coin. It's supposed to be worth $1 and it's 68 cents. So if you haven't been paying attention, don't worry about going to check your BUSD. If you're worried about your BUSD, it has not changed. This is specifically to the UST stablecoin, so you don't have to worry about impact to your Binance Pegged USD. Now here's essentially the same article, but on CoinDesk. And what I liked about CoinDesk is that they actually included the portion of the video from this testimony in front of Congress. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'll blow it up and we'll look at it's about 10 to 20 seconds of video. So we'll watch that. And don't forget, I'll put all the links that I'm going to cover in this video in the description to make it a lot easier for you to find this if you want to go read the entire article or watch the entire video clip from CoinDesk.
I would note that there was a report just this morning in the Wall Street Journal that a stable coin known as Terra USD experienced a run and had declined in value. And I think that simply illustrates that this is a rapidly growing product and that there are risks to financial stability, and we need a framework that's appropriate.
Now, I've mentioned in previous videos that I've done in some of the instructional or educational type videos that I'm all for regulation. The concern I always have with regulation, especially in the United States, is we don't always have the well thought out, knowledgeable, and well-intentioned regulation that we deserve in the United States from our elected officials. That's generally the problem that I've got when it comes to regulation in the United States. Between that and it seems like the primary focus of every single regulation in the United States is about taxation and making sure that the federal government gets their piece of the pie versus trying to provide security and safety in the space. Again, not to interfere with innovation and pushing the crypto space further. Regulation tends to be a good thing when it's that well thought out version. When we've got some of the craziness in the regulation, that's where I have a problem. And we've seen some recent stuff as well. And I posted in Twitter about some really good regulation recommendations that have the potential to be good because they prevent rug pulls. But as some of the discussion on that Twitter post alluded to, that requires that definitions make sense. For example, a failed project is not a rug pull. They're two different things. And depending on how you define things or how you write the regulation, you wouldn't want to make it a criminal activity to have a failed project, because who would ever do a project under those circumstances? It just doesn't make sense. And we've seen a lot of projects recently, especially recently, that have raised concerns about doing any kind of crypto project in the United States because they don't know how crazy the regulations are going to be with regard to crypto, specifically rebase projects. And I think for rebase specifically, there's probably some legitimacy to those concerns, because rebase projects are just kind of weird on how they work, and they kind of go against most of the traditional finance and investment industry. But that's just kind of my thoughts. But anyway, back to this specifically. Stablecoins have been in the news repeatedly over the last 5 or 6 years, more so with Tether. And I've mentioned that also in previous videos. I don't invest in Tether except for to immediately put it into something else. I don't typically buy a bunch of USDT. I don't have a problem with USDC, but USDT specifically, there's a lot of concerns about the stability of that and whether it's actually backed the way that it needs to be to ensure that it doesn't have the exact same issue that UST currently has. And here's a pretty good article specific to that, but if you do any kind of a Google search on USDT, you're probably going to find a bunch of articles because it's been in the news quite a lot. And there is pretty strong evidence out there that there are concerns that you should be worried about with USDT. USDC, with its link to Coinbase, I'm less concerned about that one. But this could be an issue with pretty much every stablecoin that's out there, which is why regulation is a good thing. If it's pegged to the dollar, it should be pegged to the dollar. You shouldn't see fluctuations down to 68 cents for a stablecoin that's pegged to the US dollar. It just shouldn't happen. So I agree that regulation should exist and should be put in place. And I hope that they have some smart individuals that do a good job in building that regulation or that framework for how they should be handled. So let's take a look at the actual market conditions for a second, because I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about this a little bit. 29,000 for Bitcoin. Pretty crazy, right? I didn't know that we were going to see that number for a while. 2181 for Ethereum. BNB 278. That's an awesome price to build up your BNB for when you're starting to get into these projects again. So if you get some extra money laying around, now's a pretty good time to get into BNB. Is the bleeding done? Or is it going to continue to go lower? That is the $1 million question. I wish I had an answer to it. I actually think we're probably going to go a little bit lower. If we look at the fear and greed index right now, we're at 12. Now, yesterday, we were at 10. It's still extreme fear, but you are starting to see a little bit of an uptick. But even last week, 21, we've got a long way to go. Now, this is generally the best time to buy because you'll start to see a bunch of people buying into the market when it gets down to these level of conditions. But there's a lot of things going on right now that's causing these prices to dip as far as they are. So across the board, pretty much every project out there is down significantly. Doesn't matter what you're talking about, nearly every one of them is down. Multiple projects are talking about not launching or have already delayed their launches just because the market conditions are so bad to launch right now. It kind of makes sense. And I've had a couple of questions on different videos saying, hey, when are you going to do another video on a launch project? Well, there aren't a lot of really good launch projects to cover right now. And as I've mentioned before on the channel, I tend to look for projects that are unique or stand out in some way or push the space in some way. Those projects aren't going to try to launch right now. As always, if you've got a recommendation for a project that you want me to take a look at, put it in the comments. I'll take a look at it and maybe I'll cover it on the channel. But I haven't seen a lot of really earth-shatteringly new projects out there. It's a lot of rebase projects right now, or there are variations that aren't that much of a variation on other projects. So there just isn't a lot to cover right now, which is also why I'm not covering a lot of information on the channel. There just isn't a lot to talk about, especially on the projects I cover more frequently on this channel. There's just not a lot going on. The market conditions are horrible and their prices are down significantly across the board. Now, hopefully you find the content helpful. Let me know in the comments. Is there a project that you're looking at that you want me to cover on the channel? I'm curious to hear what you all are looking at. Until next time, stay strong with those diamond hands.